Right.
I'm gonna retweet you too.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Heather Mansfield again at Nonprofit Tech for Good, and I am here in Boston with Emily Reed, the director. She's tweeting right now,
I'm tweeting.
She'll be done in just a second. She is the Director of Development at the College of Education at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, which I've actually been there. I have driven there from my hometown, Springfield, Missouri, when I used to live there. It's about 2 hours away, right? And right in the middle of the United States. And here you are in Boston as a fundraiser attending the Association of Fundraising Professionals International Fundraising Conference.
Absolutely.
All right, how's the conference going?
It's been amazing. I call this my Christmas every year as a fundraising professional, because I get to kind of resharpen my fundraising tools and then just be around people who are like me and passionate about the sector and this profession.
Yeah, I think I even see there's a button on your sweater there. Is that an AF Peeps button?
That is an AF Peeps button. We're kind of the social media ambassadors for the conference and for the profession, and so that's a part of the reason it's my favorite time of year. Is I get to get together with those people who geek out over the same things I do when it comes to social media and fundraising.
It's really interesting because being in Norman, Oklahoma, even 50 years ago, like you wouldn't have been connected except maybe through snail mail, and I know the train went through there, but you know, it's really amazing. Social media today, now you can be a part of this international community and come together once a year and meet each other, but then still stay connected throughout that year on social media.
Yeah, I actually met most of the AFPs before I went to my first AFP conference on Twitter. So we had a relationship going before I even showed up at the conference. It was amazing.
We're all Twitter geeks, aren't we?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Funny. All right, so tell me a little bit about yourself. You live in Norman, Oklahoma, where the College of Education and the University of Oklahoma is based. Were you born in Oklahoma?
I was actually born in Skytook, which is a smaller town near Tulsa in the northeastern part of the state.
And not even thinking about fundraising, but what was your very first job?
My very first job was my parents owned a small mom and pop grocery store in Sperry, Oklahoma, which is even smaller than Skytook. They had one of those old-fashioned meat counters, and I would work at the cash register for them.
How old were you?
I actually started as soon as I could stand. They had a little pedestal thing that I would stand on, and so 4 years old, I was up there counting back change.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Is it still around? I'm just curious. Mom and pop shop?
It's not. It burned down about 20 years ago now.
Oh, no.
But I learned so many life lessons about how to talk to people and learn from people's stories and count back change, which nobody does these days anymore. They just put the wad of cash in your hand, and a lot of great life lessons.
That's great. So let's fast forward a little bit. Where'd you go to college?
University of Oklahoma.
All right, so you are full-on Oklahoma girl.
I am.
All right. And now, what was your first professional job?
My first professional job was for the Court-Appointed Special Advocates of Oklahoma County, foster care organization, and I was the only fundraiser in my shop outside of the executive director who helped with fundraising tasks.
Okay, that just gave me goosebumps a little bit because you didn't tell me that before. CASA is a great organization. This is something that I see a lot on Twitter, just like there's a crazy number. There's like 150,000 kids, more than that, in foster care right now. What is the number? Do you happen to remember? It's high.
I don't. I know in Oklahoma County, I was really lucky to work there because we had more than the rest of the state combined in Oklahoma County. We're kids in foster care, so a really great need and a really great topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about.
And you know, I remember being in high school and there were kids in foster care, and you know, they get older and it's harder to get adopted. And so I'm just hoping, you know, for anyone out there, that's a great thing to do.
Absolutely.
So you were a fundraiser there.
I was the only fundraiser, so I did the annual giving, the major giving, the grants, the corporations, everything.
Did you do online stuff too?
We did. That was actually the first year that Giving Tuesday became a thing. And I was really excited to kind of show my board what social media could do, because they were a little skeptical.
Of course.
And we actually made a goal of raising $1,000, and we raised $12,000.
Awesome. So they were impressed.
Exactly.
Right, that's good. Boards can be sometimes a little difficult to work with when it comes to social media because they don't want to invest financially in it yet.
Exactly.
So where are you now?
Now I'm at the University of Oklahoma in the Janine Rainbolt College of Education. I've been there going on 3 years now. I was in a junior development role, but this past September was promoted to Director of Development.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. That's a big title.
It is, and I'm really lucky to fundraise for a subject that I'm really passionate about, which is education and scholarships, because I was a first-generation college student, never would have made it through school without scholarships. So it makes it for an easy day at work when you're fundraising for something you're passionate about.
That's fantastic. Goosebumps again. First one in her family to go to college. That's really important. That's great. So it sounds like you paid your dues, you got the position, and now you're in the development position. So I've always been curious, like, how is alumni fundraising maybe different from maybe what I see more online? Like, today is World Water Day, so there's just a lot of stuff going on around World Water Day. And how is it different in alumni? Do you have those same sort of cycles, or, what's going on in the world of alumni fundraising right now?
So it's interesting, especially in a college of education. So the really nice part is we have kind of this built-in donor base, if you will, of our alumni. But when you're thinking about educators, especially in Oklahoma right now, where teachers are greatly underpaid, they're really passionate about education, but they're not always able to make those major gifts. So it's wonderful in that you have a built-in prospect list from your alumni, but you still have to go through a lot of that vetting that you would have to do in a traditional fundraising scenario. But I can say that OU alumni are very passionate, and so we're very lucky in that regard.
And teachers generally have good hearts.
They always have good hearts. My first not professional job, which I did not mention before, was a student caller at the University of Oklahoma, calling alumni for the annual giving program when I was a student. And I always loved calling the College of Education alumni because they would give advice.
You loved it?
I loved calling College of Education alumni. And I really did like calling, but College of Education alumni, they didn't always make a gift, or they weren't always able to upgrade their gift, but they always gave advice or wanted to have a conversation. There was a real authenticity with them.
That's great. So it's funny because in my alumni, where I went to school, I don't ever think about donating to them. And, when I think of them, and I'm not going to say who it is, but it's just, I think of $10 million gifts of some person who wants to build a library, and have a legacy. That's definitely not me or anybody I know. So it never really occurs to me to give to something also that I paid a lot of money to. And
absolutely.
So for someone like me, who doesn't really make that connection of why would I donate $20 to my alumni when I could donate to help an animal shelter? That's something I'm more passionate about. Why would somebody want to give to where they went to school?
So this is the thing that's a challenge in higher education, I would say healthcare, fundraising, a lot of those larger institutions. We historically across the board have not done a good job of communicating what your gift actually does. And you're absolutely right, alumni picture these giant coffers of money and we're just swimming around in them. And so something that we've tried to do in the College of Education is really link the gift back to exactly what we're doing with it. And that's really important for teachers because they could spend that $20 in their classroom. They could spend that $20 on their family.
Right.
It's a big gift for them. So we tie it back to specific items like student certification tests. All teachers have to be certified, but the students have to pay those costs out of pocket on top of their tuition and everything else. And so we say, if you're a teacher, you're an alumni, you'll give us $15, we'll hand that right over to a student, and that's $15 less they have to find for the $400 to $600 they have to pay.
Yeah.
But this cost, that takes away that cost of that very specific fee that you probably just had to pay 10 years ago when you got certified.
Do you find a lot of the students are also first generation in Oklahoma, like going to school for the first time? Because I'm from Missouri, I was from 100 miles from there, and we were also first generation, and the generations before us were farming, right? So college wasn't something that we did. So $15 might not sound a lot, a lot, but if you're the first one to go to college and you're working for minimum wage, which is nothing, and trying to go through school, $15 can mean a lot.
Absolutely.
So do you find that that's true with your students at the University of Oklahoma, or at least the ones in the education department?
Yes, we do have a fair amount of first generation college students, but also, something kind of regrettable. A lot of parents who have children coming to the University of Oklahoma, especially those first generation students, when those students say, I would like to go to the College of Education and be a teacher, the parents will cut off any support because they're worried about their student, especially a first generation. They want them to go into a very lucrative field, and education isn't necessarily that lucrative field. And so usually those first generation families can't provide a ton of support, but any support they do, a lot of times they'll cut that off unless the student threatening them to pick another major.
I think that's an interesting story, and I think it's probably a lot different than something you would hear families talking about in the kitchen tables here in Boston, right? There are big regional differences.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's a campaign that you're working on right now?
Probably the one
I'm
I'm most excited about is we just launched, so we're a little behind. We just launched our first crowdfunding campaign at the University of Oklahoma. And crowdfunding is something that I did at CASA and that I really enjoy doing, and all of that social media fun. But that student certification fund support has been our first dipping our toes into that. And it's been really wonderful seeing the reaction, just because of the tone, that regional tone right now of education. We hit our goal actually within the first 2 days, because there was just such an outpouring of people feeling like they could make a direct difference in the lives of these future teachers.
What platform did you use?
It's one that we use Agilon for our donor database, which is not one I've ever heard anybody else use.
But I hear people say that a lot. They're using one, and I don't think anyone else has ever heard of it. There's a lot of databases.
There really are. So under that, there's Scale Funder, and so that's what we use.
Okay, yeah, I went to his session yesterday. He gave a really good piece of advice getting ready for Giving Tuesday this year, or Give Local America, which is May 3rd, which is small organizations should have a minimum of 50 ambassadors. Like, start picking out those 50 online ambassadors to talk about your event.
Absolutely.
Did you create an ambassador base of, star advocates to talk about your crowdfunding campaign on social media?
So we really tapped into our faculty on this, because they're the ones, so I work with alumni and donors, but I don't always have the most interaction with our students. And so until I interact with them at some kind of alumni event, I don't have that relationship, but faculty do. And so we really tapped into our faculty to help spread the word across their email and social media networks to use them as that ambassadors. But you're absolutely right. Number one thing I see go wrong with crowdfunding is nonprofits just assume that if they put up the page, they will come, and you have to do a lot of work on the front end to really be prepared and make sure that it's going to be successful.
And the good news is that first year or two, when you're doing all that hard work setting it up, it almost comes on autopilot year after that, and then you just get better at it each time.
Exactly. Well, and people like being a part of something that's successful, so usually your ambassadors will sign on and on again because they want to help you reach your goal.
Yeah. So, Josh in the last interview had mentioned that I should ask you about Snapchat.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe you can educate me on this, because Snapchat is one that I think, like a lot of people, my brain just like, why? Why do I take a picture and supposed to put a mustache on my face, and send this out to people? And most of my friends, I'm connected with on Facebook. I don't really want to send them snaps. Like, I'm a little older. I'm 45. I'm just not interested. It seems silly to me. But my stepdaughter, who is 11, we went on a field trip the other day to the Coica Mounds. I don't know if you know those, east of St. Louis. And we climbed the earthen mound, the pyramid, and we were on Snapchat, and she just loved it. I mean, was fanatical about it almost. So back in the day when I got started on MySpace, it was all teenagers, right? And everybody was like, oh, that's just for teenagers. Well, Snapchat seems to be a repeat of this. So I'm not ignoring it. I don't particularly like it yet. And it's hard because you post something out there and you don't get any feedback. You don't know if anybody saw it. You don't know if they get any likes.
Well, that's not true.
Oh, well, then educate me on that. So tell me, how does Snapchat work for brands?
So the brands that I've seen be most successful with it are nonprofits who are membership based. So the Los Angeles County Museum does a fantastic job with Snapchat because they're using it so museums can be seen as a little stuffy, especially to younger generations. So they're using Snapchat, which is a platform that the demographics are younger, and then they're putting pop culture references that are current. They'll take a picture of a statue and then put a music lyric from some top 40 song. Or, for instance, they went around their museum one day and they took a bunch of pictures of sculptures and pictures, and then on top of it you can write text.
Yes.
And they wrote the text of the last monologue of the Breakfast Club movie.
Oh, that's so funny.
And so it's one of those, you want to keep clicking through and see what could they possibly find in their museum that would fit with the Breakfast Club.
And it's fascinating to me that 14-year-olds even know what the Breakfast Club is, but I guess it's kind of a cult thing.
Well,
but wait. So they're creating stories. Are they publishing them to their story,
yes.
My Story?
Yes.
Okay.
So Snapchat, as your daughter's probably using it, is one-to-one. However, for brands and even for individuals, they have something called their story, which you can kind of equivocate to a Facebook wall because you put it out there, and for 24 hours, anyone that you're connected with can watch it. And you actually can see who has watched it.
How? Tell me.
So if you're the user, you go to your story, you click on your story, there's a drag down, and then you can see all of the names of the people who have watched it.
Okay, I didn't know that. So there you go. See, that's what was missing. And that's the thing. It's not intuitive for me, right? But for an 11-year-old, she gets on there, swipe, she knows it on, like, it's just, it's a different, it's, I'm noticing the generational divide between Twitter users like myself and Snapchat.
Well, on that note, though, one of my favorite articles when Snapchat first came out, and I was hesitant as well. Actually, my younger brother, who was in college at the time, kind of got me on it because he wouldn't always respond to a text, but he would respond to a Snapchat. But though, I believe it was the Wall Street Journal put out an article where a journalist, probably in his 40s or 50s, gave his parents cell phones with Snapchat on it. His parents who are retired and in their 80s, just to see what would happen. And what he found was, once they figured out the tool and got through all the mishaps, they actually communicated more throughout the day, because you don't necessarily want to pick up the phone or even send a text for, I was in my garden today, look at this beautiful flower, here's what we're cooking. Little things that are interesting when you only have to spend 5 to 10 seconds looking at them. But a real connection that can really be made even for older people. So I would kind of throw out that generational misnomer.
That's a great story. I love that. And see, this is why I wanted to do these interviews, because I think, here we have 3,200 nonprofit professionals. And, whenever you go to one of the, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's one conference, I can say it's South by Southwest, right? And the only people they ever have speaking there when they talk about the nonprofit sector are like celebrities. But celebrities haven't worked in the nonprofit sector for 20 or 30 years. They don't really know it as well. They pop in and do a good cause, and that's great. But I think, that was a great story, and I just think there's a lot of great stories that nonprofit folks have to tell that just people don't get to hear.
Absolutely. That's why this is my Christmas every year.
That made me think of the Sad Grandpa hashtag. Did you see that the other day on Twitter?
Oh!
Sad Grandpa, he made hamburgers for all his grandkids, and only one showed up, and so the granddaughter posted on Twitter, Sad Grandpa.
That's in Oklahoma.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's in a town just south of Norman. I did see that.
Well, his grandparents, or his grandkids, should buy him a phone, and they can all get connected on Snapchat.
Exactly. Well, now the whole metro area is coming from what I've seen on social media, so I think it's going to turn into a happy story, but that would be really interesting if they did a Snap story based on that party. It'd be fun.
Well, good. I'm going to take a second look at Snapchat. It's just like sometimes, like any nonprofit, I'm not a nonprofit, but like any human being, like your brain can only take so much.
Exactly.
So if you were to give advice to other alumni associations that it's a wide age that you're engaging, right? It's
Absolutely.
From grads from 21, 22, all the way up to 80, right? So if you had to say 3 tools, now we do live in a multi-channel, world where of course we do print, and then we do TV, we do radio, we do email, we do social media. Let's say for that demographic 21 to 40, what 3 tools would you recommend the most?
I would still recommend Facebook. So even though it's not the #1 tool that age group goes to, it's got the best use of pictures and large amounts of text. If a young alumni is going to seek out an update, they're going to go to a Facebook versus another channel, I feel like. Email, you just have to be really careful because people get really sensitive about sending too much. So you've got to make sure that it's something that they will actually care about and not something that most people won't care about, like we got new carpet or something like that I see nonprofits use. And then I would say throw in something fun, experiment with different things. I would say for that 3rd spot, always be kind of using innovative tools, trying something out. Even if it doesn't stick, go to the next one. Because Snapchat, I think, would be really neat to use. Or I've seen a lot of universities and colleges be really successful with Tumblr. And not for the purpose of look at what we're doing, but honestly for humor. And it just keeps the university name on the top of these students' minds, besides for whenever they're having to pay their student loan payments.
Let me ask you this. So you're using all these tools and you're knowledgeable about it and clearly excited about it. Have you hit any brick walls? Because this is something that comes up a lot, and I've gotten a lot over the last decade, sometimes in the early days to the point of tears, right? Where someone starting out would say, I want to do this, I want to do this, and then they're always reaching executive staff that say no, 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 no. Board members that say no, or only if it's free. So have you ever experienced that? And if you did, how did you handle it? And have you gotten to the point at the University of Oklahoma where you actually have a budget to financially invest in social media?
Oh, that's a lot.
A loaded one, huh? I mean, if they're letting you use Snapchat, then they're, on some level, they're like, okay, cool. We trust you.
Absolutely. I have been fortunate to not have hit a brick wall, but I always go into those conversations, whether it was at my first job at a smaller organization or now at the University of Oklahoma. I always go to those conversations with data, showing what other nonprofits can do, or if there is no data, going in with a plan. So it's not just, hey, can we try this thing? It's, here's my plan. I would really like to try this. And it makes it a little more easy for those higher ups to envision it. And I feel that really helps.
So you're proactive. You don't wait for them to get it. You help demonstrate by showing maybe what the University of Missouri is doing.
Exactly.
Right? And then having something in writing and some data for them.
And that's the number one thing, honestly, at universities. If we can see another university has done something, most higher ups want us to be doing that as well. So
great. Well, so you live in Oklahoma. Are you married? Do you have any kids? Any dogs, pets?
I am. I'm married to a guy I met in my hometown of Skytook and stuck with me all throughout college and all of this career stuff. Actually, our 8-year anniversary was yesterday, so shout out Terry. And then I have a dog.
And you were here.
And I was here, but that's okay. And then we have an Akita, and her name is Akira, and she has her own hashtag. It's hashtag AKIRA. The Akita, A-K-I-T-A.
And so, what is an Akita?
It's like I call it a Japanese version of a husky. They're incredibly intelligent, incredibly loyal, but it's interesting because they kind of have the same reputation in the UK that pit bulls have here for being a little bit ferocious, which is so interesting to me because she is the most lovable dog I've ever met, just like pit bulls are.
Right.
So,
do you ever get stressed out about social media? Like, the addiction, like getting off the phone?
Yes, especially whenever I'm here at the conference. There's so much great content, whether it's on Twitter or the application for the conference or Instagram or even Snapchat. More people have been getting on Snapchat. And it's a constant battle of, like, I want to connect with people one-on-one, but it's also great to connect on here too, and you get to see in other sessions what they're learning and talking about.
Well, I asked that because your Akita, it made me think of a study from the University of Tokyo, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but the power of kawaii, or koi something, but it means the power of cute. Right? So cute dogs, cute cats, all the stuff on social media, and it helps relax you. It helps you be more productive throughout your workday if you actually look at cat videos. So I get pretty stressed out being online all the time, and I think you actually sacrifice a lot when you live on the internet. Like, I think you sacrifice your health in many ways. Sometimes your mental, your sleep. Clearly, you lose a lot of sleep.
Absolutely.
And I have cats. And cats help me relax. They are a big part of the social media addiction treatment. So would you say the same, that, you know, getting outside with your dog and just breaking away from the phone and all that helps?
Even so, I'm more into major gift fundraising now, and that can be kind of frustrating in that it's a very long-term process, and it can almost feel like you never are done. And so a lot of times I'll turn to social media because it's kind of that instant gratification, if you will. But so then I even have to make more of a concerted effort to put it down and just walk away. And my dog absolutely is a big part of that. I'd never had an indoor dog, and my husband talked me into it. And I'm so glad he did, because my blood pressure automatically goes down as soon as I see her.
That's great. You know, one more thing. When the last job I had was at a small international development organization in San Francisco.
Oh, fun.
And I remember the executive director sat us all down and gave us 5 names of donors, major donors, that we had to, like, curate and call, and I hated it. Like, I could never be a major donor fundraiser, ever in a million years. It's just not something I would want to do. So back then it was pretty old school. It was like, get on the phone, how are you? And, you know, writing thank you notes, and I just loathed it. Has it changed? Is it the same, or do you actually reach out now to him sometimes on social media? You know, are you connecting through text message? Reaching major donors today, is it still through the phone and through thank you notes?
So for the most part, the traditional stuff is still the #1 way to go. But I'm so glad you brought this up, because actually the AF Peeps, we did a full session yesterday with 10 of us walking through the donor cycle from identification all the way to stewardship of donors. And we are focusing more on major gifts. And that LinkedIn can be a really great tool for initial engagement. And even Twitter sometimes, that can get into a gray area, because then you're talking personal and professional. But LinkedIn I have used, and I know a lot of people at OU use to find people. So looking at their board members or their faculty's connections and saying, hey, I see you're connected with so-and-so, could you introduce us sometime? Or sometimes It's the weirdest thing. If I can't get somebody on the phone, I can't get them through email, sometimes they will respond to LinkedIn, and I have no explanation for it. But
That's
so it's
great.
also an alternative to picking up the phone.
Perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Well, Emily, I wish you all the luck in your career.
Thank you.
And no doubt if I see you again, you might be the president
Oh.
one day. But good luck. You're doing great work.
Thank you so much.
Keep it up.